And so we're saying that is Jesus, it's not Jesus. That part's authentic, that part's not, which is all junk.
Is it necessary to categorize an artist as either Christian or secular? For example, Kanye or Bieber?
What's fun about talking about sacred and secular is it completely exposes the dualism in our culture. Like we philosophically, we love dualistic thinking. We need boxes. We want it to be right, wrong, black, white, Democrat, Republican. What are you? Which box are you? Are you, we'll take it super far. You vax, unvax. Are you you're homeschool, you public school? We want to take this down to the most basic human functions and put everything in these dualistic boxes. But life isn't that easy. Like you can't say secular and sacred. It's arrogant at worst and ignorant at best. It's not even a conversation worth having because it takes in no account for the person's story. So when we have this conversation, you have to talk about it from two perspectives: the giver and the receiver. So the giver of art, the presenter of art, whatever you want to look at it like, or the person sitting in the audience, or the person receiving, social media or in a stadium or wherever. And the person giving, if we're going to talk about secular or sacred, Justin Bieber, Kanye West, whoever else it is, we aren't taking into account their story when we're even having that conversation. And when I say their story, I'm talking about the stuff we don't know about. We're not taking into account any of the reality of who these people are and what they've experienced. We're only doing it as outsiders. And so we're saying that is Jesus, it's not Jesus. That part's authentic, that part's not, which is all junk. Because everything is about the story you have. Like, look at it this way. Like, is my daughter, who has cerebral palsy, is 18 years old, in a wheelchair, probably like around 9 years old in terms of like able to grasp things, which means I have a perpetual little girl forever, which is like stunningly beautiful and really painful, right? Do you honestly think God's gonna judge her as the same standard he's judging me? Is that what he's gonna do? No. Why? Because he's gonna take into account her brokenness. He's gonna take into account her story. I can't do that. I don't have the right to do that. I don't have the ability to do that because I don't see everybody's stories the way God does. He's going to look at my daughter and he's going to give her a different set of expectations than he is me. And when I am looking at someone like Kanye, or I'm looking at someone like a Justin Bieber, I have to take into account, I don't know their story. This may be the most beautiful expression of Christianity that one story can bring to all of humanity. I don't get that say. It might be totally false and a bunch of crap. I don't get that say. Because I have to recognize that I can't put it in a box because I'm not connected to the story. I mean, look at it this way. We are so committed to dualism that we are throwing massive events, even this weekend, massive events, spending millions of dollars to make sure people are saved, as if we ever know. It's really to make sure that a bunch of people say yes to the predetermined way you and I, or these people running these events, have said, this is how we know. If they pray the prayer or do the thing, check the box, come to the meeting, go to the church, like where does it stop? Where does it end? I'm completely I'm the way outsider on this. I'm like, I don't even think you get saved by a prayer. So I didn't get married. I got married by walking down the aisle, but my marriage isn't a wedding day. It's a marriage, right? So if I walk down the aisle, but I don't show up 50 years later, then really, did I ever say yes? It's the same thing as going, if I pray a prayer but don't show up to the relationship with Christ, did I even get saved? I don't know. That's not necessarily what this is for to figure out, but it has a lot to do with the dualistic realities that we keep trying to invite people to, spending millions and millions of dollars to invite people to make sure that we know which box they're in, saved, unsaved. When we know we can spend lots of less money and go to them. which is where Kanye shows up in our story. Dude, like I went to 3 Sunday services. I will never forget the first one I went to. I was in Salt Lake City. It happened to show up. It got announced while I was flying there, and it was walking distance from where I was going to be. I was like, this is the greatest day ever. It was at Salt Lake City Mall in the middle of like this giant area. And they had set up, they didn't even give anybody notice, dude. Like the crazy part about these Sunday services is nobody knew what was going on. It was thrown together. It was completely haphazard. Half the stuff doesn't work. The mall barely knows what's going on. 30,000 people descend on a mall. Like a literal shopping mall. People are sitting on top of 3-story buildings just to get a look at people singing the gospel. Like I wept and wept and wept because I was like, that's it. Like this is what I've been waiting to see my whole like Christian adult life. He's going to malls and going to the center of he's going to the city square. And he doesn't even get on stage for more than 5 minutes. It was insane. He literally just stands on the side like this the whole time. Doesn't even get up. Then after the guy preached, which he preached 1 Corinthians 13, what does love look like? He preached for all of 10 minutes. And then was like, hey, does anybody want to know Jesus? Dude, 5,000, 6,000 people are like, I'm in. Sign me up. Dude, completely haphazard. No promotion. Not millions of dollars. Just showing up in the middle of the square and then doing what you do. Then Kanye gets up for literally, I think he was up for 10 minutes. It was 2 hours long. And homie gets up for 10 minutes. I'm like, that to me is, I mean, I have like loads of opinions on this stuff, but I'm like, that to me was one of the greatest expressions of modern day evangelism I think I've ever seen. And I've been a guy who's been a part of stadiums. I've been a guy who's on the streets. I've been the guy doing all these things. I've done it all. That to me, I was like, that was one of the most beautiful expressions of modern day evangelism I have ever seen.
God brought love into the world through his son, Jesus Christ.
This, like, most of my Christian friends are going to miss this. They're never going to get to preach to these people. I was in Arizona. I opened for Kanye at Sun Devil Stadium in January of 2020, like with, Eddie James. I met Kanye. We met the whole Sunday service crew. We played, Eddie James played, and then Kanye played. Dude, that place cleared out after Kanye was done. Why? Because they were there to see a man in process. I think we're all watching because we want to see the process. We don't need the product. If we can be voyeurs to another man's process, dude, we're in. And I think that's why a lot of artists, the best thing you can do is let people be a voyeur to your art while it's still in process, while it's still broken and fractured, because then we don't have to determine whether or not it's secular or sacred. We can just enjoy the process together and see what comes out of humility and tenderness and vulnerability in a way that most of us never even get to experience in our own personal lives.